What is up, duelists, and welcome to a Yu-Gi-Oh video, a little bit of a discussion on the state of the TCG at the moment and whether we need a ban list or not and what I would want that ban list to look like. I think the first question is, do we even need a ban list right now? Or rather, since we've gotten this one relatively recently, it's been 5 weeks since they've dropped this Forbidden and Limited list update. However, the way I look at this, it's more like a quality of life update rather than an actual Forbidden and Limited list. It feels like an outside of the regular schedule update that they did because of what happened at YCS Anaheim. Not really like an update to the Yami, Mitsu, Draco Tail kind of format that we were promised with the previous Forbidden and Limited list. And so I don't feel like this one really counts. I mean, of course, it was a massive ban list and really good, but it didn't really update any of the decks in the format. It just took away the floodgates, which was awesome. But I still think after playing with, you know, Draco Tail, Mitsu, Yami, and also a lot of the hybrid variations of a lot of those decks now, K9, I think it's time that we talk about some changes, potential changes for the format, because of course there's also other sets around the corner. But at the moment, I have my doubts that the stuff that is in Phantom Revenge will have a real chance at competing with decks like Yami Mitsurugi at the current power level that it's at. So wanted to talk about that a little bit. Had a pretty interesting ban list discussion with my stream recently, so wanted to share that here. And want to preface it by saying as well that I do think the current format is, all things considered, pretty good, partially also because of that previous ban list. But there's still things I would like to see improved. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so we can get closer to that 100K, which is should hopefully happening soon. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the discussion, and let's begin. So my goal for this list is to mostly address some of the decks that are doing a little bit too much in the current format, mostly combo decks that I think are a little bit over the top and are stopping some other decks from seeing play. At the same time, I do acknowledge that it is a relatively diverse format right now, which is pretty cool. And I think for the most part, after they've banned the floodgates, I think it was a lot more fun to play this format than before. So I don't think it's like necessary to slaughter any decks right now completely. And I also want to preface this by saying I don't think they are going to murder Mitsurugi. And we're going to talk about that because Mitsurugi is going to get a structure deck, or they're called legendary modern decks. Mitsurugi is going to get a structure deck in, I think it's March. I want to keep it realistic to the point where I do not think they are going to drastically hit Mitsurugi before that product comes out, because it doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you in a second why I actually don't think that's too big of a problem. If I'm honest, I don't think pure Mitsurugi is the problem. The problem with Mitsurugi is the hybrid versions that people are doing. Most importantly, of course, Mitsurugi Yami or Mitsurugi K9 or whatever, right? Like, we've had discussions in the past where I said, like, okay, limit Habakiri, limit prayers or whatever, or ban Kusanagi. Those are some of the most common suggestions when it comes to Mitsurugi hits. I don't think these are happening. And I understand that Habakiri, and I 100% agree that Habakiri is a card that is designed in a very problematic way. I don't think they're gonna ban Habakiri because there's a product around Mitsurugi that's releasing in March. Unless they're doing something completely crazy, which would actually be a good thing, but I don't think they're doing that. They could ban Habakiri, and then in the legendary modern decks, they could make like a new version of it, like a retrain or whatever. Wait. Look, I agree, that would be awesome, but it wouldn't happen. Also, banning stuff like Kusanagi only hits pure Mitsurugi. Like, literally, Mitsurugi Yami does not even always play Kusanagi. There's versions of this deck that don't play Kusanagi, and it's the only ones that are actually a problem. So, so banning any of this doesn't make sense, I don't think. I could see them maybe semi-limiting Habakiri or prayers or both. I think that's reasonable, but it would obviously not be enough, because one of the core problems of Mitsurugi is also the fact that this is so searchable. And that's what I'm getting to, right? I think by far the most realistic and also best way to do this is this. This has to happen, and I'll tell you why. This is such an elegant solution. They might even leave these two untouched. This is such an elegant solution to this thing. I don't see a universe where this doesn't happen. It'd be outrageous to me, because here's the thing. This is the way how the Yummy cards access the Mitsurugi cards. This is not only an Omni Negate, a Searcher for Habakiri, but also a Floodgate. And also, if you ban Arclight, you don't have to do anything about Yummy. This is probably the most unfair thing about the Yummy end board. If you ban Herald, pure Yummy is super easy to handle with non-engine. It still has ways to play around Nibiru if you just don't commit your full hand. And I don't think Yummy is dead if you ban Herald. I think if you think pure Yummy is dead after banning Herald, then you haven't played pure Yummy very well. I think pure Yummy is still a powerful deck. I think if Herald is the only thing that's keeping Yummy alive, then fuck it. The only thing that I don't like about this, of course, as an old Necros head, there's a lot of cool ways to use Herald in other decks, like Dogmatica or Necros or whatever, where they just send them from the extra deck to the graveyard. But I think it's just a sacrifice we have to make. This has to happen. I don't see a way around it. It's a very elegant solution. I also hope that they hit Zombie Vampire. Of course, by hitting Herald, you stop Mitsurugi into... you stop the Yummy bridge into Mitsurugi. It doesn't change the fact that Mitsurugi can still basically bridge into everything in the game. And as much as I agree with you guys that Zombie Vampire is a fun card to play with, I think it just has the same flair to it as Chaos Ruler. That card needs to go. I think this is nice because by just hitting 2 cards, you solve a majority of the problems that are related to Mitsurugi and Yummy. You can leave pure Mitsurugi completely intact, which is going to be good for the product that you're releasing in March, right? Mitsurugi, completely fine, no problem. Pure Yummy, you don't have to worry about it anymore because you banned Herald of the Arclight, and you basically stop the bridge between some of the most popular decks in the format. I think this would be perfect. What if we ban Gravity Controller? Then you're just banning around the problem cards. In which world is Gravity Controller the bigger problem than Herald of the Arclight? Is a generic Omni Negate that's also a Floodgate really worth holding on to so hard? What's the deal here? Like, why is it so important to keep Herald of the Arclight around? I don't see one. Okay, next up is probably my least favorite topic of this discussion because it's K9 Vanquish Soul. The reason why, and I mean, you guys know what I'm about to say if you've been watching any of my other videos on this topic, but the reason why this topic is so hard for me is because I still think the Vanquish Soul cards have been done dirty. And I know this might sound weird after they just won YCS Bologna. Let me tell you once again, and I'll say it louder for the people in the back, the deck that is winning right now is not Vanquish Soul. Dude, you are ecstatic if you are able to resolve a Vanquish Soul effect in that deck in the current format. It's freaking K9, okay? It's just K9. K9 is super strong. K9 is really good into Draco Tail. K9 beats all of the fair hand traps. You open Jokul and a level 5 and there's no fair hand trap in the world that ever stops you. And it's the K9 cards that are making it all tick, and they're making it broken, and they're making the end boards. And like most of the time I win with friggin' Ripper into Werewolf with the quick play spell and stuff. Like, those are the powerful cards, okay? And it was always criminal that they hit Raisin and Stake Your Soul, when in reality, the cards that made that deck too powerful were the K9 cards, okay? Now, here's the thing. The reason why I hate talking about it is because what I want them to do is not what they are going to do, okay? I'll just get that out of here, because what I want them to do is ban the K9 cards, undo that shit basically, because I don't like those cards, and give me back Vanquish Soul, okay? Give me back Vanquish Soul and get rid of K9. I don't care about K9. The K9 gameplay is just combo slop that negates hand traps, okay? I don't need it in the game. That's what I would like to tell you. That's what I would like to do on here, okay? The problem is that's not going to happen. They're not going to revert Raisin and Stake Your Soul immediately. There's more K9 stuff that's coming out soon, right? There's another K9 Exceed in the next core set. So they're not going to like ban K9 cards right now. It's not realistic. I think this is something that maybe could happen in like a year or so, right? A realistic way this could go is similar to how they did it with Snake Eyes, right? With Snake Eyes, they put Ash and Poplar to 1. It stayed like that for like a while. And then eventually, when they banned Original, they immediately gave us back Ash and Poplar, which I think was fine. I think in hindsight, no one can argue with that. You know, Ash and Poplar being at 3, not a problem in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, right? At the moment, at least, without Original. I do think once the time comes and they are willing to murder K9 on a ban list, then we could expect them to give us back Raisin and Stake Your Soul. And I am waiting for that day, but I don't think that day is here yet. One thing I want to see is this. Jokul is, and let me tell you this from the experience of playing an entire YCS with K9 Vanquish Soul, card opening Jokul is by far the most ignorant and broken thing that you can do, because the card is so busted. If you think about all the implications, you're putting 2 level 5s on the board already. Most of the time, I mean, Jokul always has an effect to search. Most of the time, the other level 5 will also do something, you know, whether it's an Azuna that's sending a Ripper, a Lupus, or it's a Lantern that can search, or it's a Vanquish Soul card that can potentially do some stuff. You put 2 bodies on the board that both actively probably go +1, and then you have the choice of, well, I could activate my Jokul to get my +1 immediately, or I can just make Ripper immediately to stop any sort of hand trap that my opponent could have. Even Droll and Lockbird, you can't even get rolled on that shit if you just overlay into Ripper. Like, most of the time at the YCS, what I would do is just summon Jokul in another level 5, make Ripper, and then I'd negate Droll. It's absurd. And even disregarding the fact whether you think Droll should be legal or not, the fact that basically the deck that is meant to die to Droll just negates Droll by summoning a rank 5 without searching, and the rank 5 also searches an extender in Lantern, and then you still get your Jokul search later because Lantern brings the Jokul back. You're not even missing something by skipping the search. It's crazy. It's insane. I don't think they're going to ban Jokul, but limiting it so that you can still search it but don't hard open it as often, this has to happen for K9. This has to happen. One thing I don't want to happen, if I'm honest with you, I don't want them to hit Izuna. This is me personally. I think Izuna is a pretty fun card to play with. I know it's a hand trap and people have different views on hand traps. Some people hate them. Some people think they're fine. I personally think Izuna is like the one K9 card that I really enjoy playing with. I think that'd be awesome. You guys are saying Ripper deserves a ban. That's why I specifically had that monologue about, I don't think they're going to ban Ripper, okay? I hate Ripper. There should not be a rank 5 that you make at the start of your combo that searches an extender and also negates hand traps. It shouldn't exist. I agree with you. They're not going to ban it now. It's too early. It's too integral to the K9 decks to get banned now. Eventually, maybe, but not yet. Not yet. I'm trying to keep it somewhat realistic. The other thing, please leave Holy Sue alone. I know the card is good, but please, Vanquish Soul has suffered enough. It's the K9 cards. I swear, the K9 cards are at fault. Noroi, I'm kind of indifferent, honestly, but I'm running out of options on what to hit in K9. If they just limit Jokul, am I already happy? I'm not sure. Maybe. I do think Noroi is very powerful. At the same time, Noroi is honestly, compared to Jokul, I think Noroi is kind of tame. It's another card that lets you play around Droll and Lockbird, so I could see them semi-limiting or limiting it. I'm not sure. Looking at the hand is very toxic. Yes and no. I don't know. I once again, from my perspective, looking at their hand during the YCS usually was good, but most of the time it didn't matter. Because if I'm comboing, I'm winning even if I don't know your cards. And more often than not, like, the fact that Noroi needs your normal summon was actually, it felt more like a commitment, right? It felt more like, oh, I actually like have to decide between normal summon Noroi or normal summon Madlove, and I have to make a decision. Whereas if I have Jokul, it's just like, well, I just vomit my hand onto the field, doesn't matter. So there's definitely a difference between Noroi and Jokul in terms of their power level. I'm just questioning whether I'm happy if they just hit Jokul for K9 stuff. And I think the answer is no, I'm not happy. So maybe a semi-limit to Noroi, and then we're talking for now. This definitely does not kill K9. And Azuna hit to 2. You know what? What you're saying is not unrealistic. I think this could also happen. I will say this would definitely not be my preferred way of doing it, because once again, I like Izuna as a card. I think it's fun to play with. I think Izuna is the least toxic card in the K9 deck. OCG did that. Yeah. I mean, I would prefer this, so I'm going to leave it here. But yeah. Case at 1. Case to 1 does nothing. Case to 1 does basically nothing because, I mean, look, I already only played 2 case and I usually sided down to 1. So case to 1, I mean, they could do it, but doesn't really matter that much. I don't know if it's behind your cam, but I would like to see Kunkuri ban, basically Sanctifier situation. Oh yeah, I forgot to add Imperial Princess Kunkuri, but I would like to see it banned too. I don't think it's realistically happening though. I don't think it's realistically happening because like it's just not being done yet is the unfortunate thing, right? I agree with you. They should preemptively get rid of Kunkuri, but at the moment it's not that popular, so they probably won't, which is the unfortunate truth. But I agree with you, in an ideal world, Kunkuri is here. It just got second at Merida. Ooh, did they play it at YCS, at the YCS in Mexico? Okay, maybe then, yeah. Maybe Kunkuri should go. I mean, it definitely should go, but maybe they will. Okay, nice. If you ban Zombie Vampire, you should also ban Saryuja. That is an interesting take. I would not be opposed to that. And the logic is sound, yeah. The logic is sound, yeah. If Zombie Vampire accessing the next 4 cards of your deck to find a bridge, I guess the same thing goes for Saryuja. I would not be opposed to it. I didn't include it in the thing because I didn't think of it this morning. It's just a matter of, you know, if they keep making archetypes that don't have proper locks, because they want some sort of creativity in deck building, which is understandable. You know, you want people to be able to combine different engines and different decks to each other. Like, sure. But you do need to limit the quality of cards that you can do that with. So just like an easy to make rank 8 or an easy to make link 4 that just lets you see the next 4 cards of your deck, or it's kind of crazy, isn't it? Isn't Zombie Vampire kind of a Hecka Hands card? I guess, but like at this point, like, are we really now not gonna ban Zombie Vampire because the tier 7 deck exists? I mean, maybe. I'm not gonna remove it from here because people might want to play it in Hecka Hands. Like, I don't care. This card needs to go because Mitsurugi. Anyways, Draco Tail. All right, Drake. We gotta talk about Draco Tail, I guess, because the deck is top tier, and I think. Funnily enough, I think Draco Tail is probably the most polarizing deck in this discussion because it's like the one deck where I'm not sure if I want it to be hit. And it's not because it's not powerful. It is powerful. Don't get me wrong. It is a powerful deck. But it's also, I just feel like, and I know this is subjective, but I just feel like if Draco Tail is meta, I'm happy. If that's the deck I'm playing against, I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh is in a good spot. Like whenever I play against Draco Tail, I'm like, yeah, no, that's cool. I like the type of game that we play right now. You know what I mean? And I don't think I'm alone with that. I think that is a pretty widespread take. And the only counter argument is like, well, it's meta, so it needs to be hit, which is what some people think. I personally don't agree with this. I'm willing to settle on a compromise here that I think is pretty fair, which is that, and I don't say this very often, but I think for Draco Tail, I think it makes some sense for them to make use of the semi-limited section. I think putting Arthalion to 1 or putting K2 to 1 or putting Phimena to 1 is way too harsh, personally. I think one of those is too harsh. I simply think that's too much. Especially in the OCG where they put K2 to 1, I think that was criminal. The deck came back because of branded, but I don't know. I personally feel like it's too harsh. I think like I could see, I included branded fusion in this discussion because I think that would be a good way to hit Draco Tail, to get rid of branded fusion, like put branded fusion back to 1. I know that's not gonna happen because there's branded support coming up, so there's not gonna be a change to branded fusion. But I think it was worth mentioning. I think out of those 4 cards, Arthalion, Phimena, Rahu, and Ketu, here's my compromise, okay? Hear me out and let me know what you think, okay? Out of those 4 cards, I would like to see 2 semi-limits. I don't care which one. Make it Rahu and Ketu. Make it Ketu and Phimena. Make it Ketu and Arthalion. Make it Rahu. I don't care. Combine it any way you want. Okay? Combine any way you want 2 semi-limits out of those 4 cards, and I think we're good. Is Arthalion to 2 even a deal? I mean, they play 3 for good reason, no? Like the third Arthalion comes up. It's a staple in every Draco Tail list. So like the third Arthalion does matter. I think this, I would do this. I think I would hit K2 Rahu to 2. I think that'd be cool if they did that. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair deal. I don't even think it needs to hit. I mean, I personally agree, but I do acknowledge the fact that, you know, we're going to take a look at the OCG metagame report in a second. And currently, I will say this much, okay? In the OCG right now, Draco Tail, even with 1 Ketu, is the most represented deck after Burst Protocol because it's incorporating the new branded support pretty well. So branded Draco Tail after Burst Protocol seems to be a pretty strong deck. And so I think hitting it a little bit is fair. I think it's fair. I do not think Draco Tail should get away with completely no hits, especially because I'm hitting other stuff quite hard here, you know, in comparison. Like there's harder K9 hits on this list. Herald of the Arclight being banned is pretty big for Draco Tail. Don't forget that. So I do not think Draco Tail should get away completely unhit from this ban list, I personally. Next up, my favorite category in ban list discussions since about a year now. Malice. Do I really have to argue whether we should hit Malice again? We all agree we should hit Malice again, right? I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who thinks that Malice needs another hit. Like the freaking, it's still YCS Bologna together with K9 Vanquish Soul. The most popular deck in top 8 is Malice, while also being by far the oldest deck out of this top 8. It's a year old at this point, which is not giga old, but still, you know, it's the oldest deck compared to all of these others, and it's still putting up these numbers. Now is where the subjective part is coming, because all of that right now was objectively true. Subjectively, I also still think it has one of the most toxic play patterns in the format, but that is my opinion. But still, one of these two has to go. I don't care which one. I don't care if it's White Binder or Red Ransom, but one of them goes. I think we are at the point where that's the only option we have. They already got rid of all of the Cyber's extra deck slop like Splash Mage and Link Decoder, which was awesome. But one of them goes. I don't care which one. I really don't care. Genuinely. I know I would ban White Binder. I would ban White Binder, but I don't care if they do it the other way around. But just ban White Binder and call it a day, okay? Like, please. Come on, man. And I'm not gonna, this is the one where I'm not gonna argue with you guys. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, does it need a hit or not? Yes, it needs a hit. Get rid of that shit. Okay. The only other meta deck I wanted to talk about was Lunalight, which I guess is, I'm not even sure if I think Lunalight needs a hit. I know that the win condition of the deck is very polarizing. A lot of people really hate it, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. I do think that Lunalight is kind of an interesting deck to have in the format sometimes, because it's like, it goes in and out of the format, and then it's like, do people respect it? Then it doesn't do well, but then people start respecting it, and so on. And like, it's sometimes an interesting meta call for people to make. The only interesting way to hit it, I think, is limiting Liger Dancer. because then you can only summon one. At the same time, some Lunalight players have told me that if you limit Liger, the deck is dead. Which I don't know if that's true, to be fair. I still feel like one of that card is really busted and really powerful. Banning Baguska is a good call as well. I don't know why I didn't put Baguska here. Banning Baguska is something that, like, I just have a gut feeling that Baguska is kind of going to be like Abyss Dweller, where it's going to be relevant every other format, and we're going to complain about it for some time until it eventually gets banned. Where, like, Dweller was printed in 2012, and we waited, like, what, 12 years for it to go or some shit? With Baguska, I'm not sure how long we're going to have to wait. But also, I don't think it's fair to fix Lunalight by banning Baguska. I don't know. I think Baguska is a bannable card outside of Lunalight. Like, just all things considered, I think, like, Baguska shouldn't exist. I agree. But also, I don't know if that's the deal, the big deal with Lunalight, because Lunalight usually wins with double Liger, not with Baguska. I think Liger to 1 would be cool. I would like to see it. I'm not sure how likely it is, but yeah. Let me do one thing real quick before we talk about these next couple of cards, okay? I'll just put them in the right position before I'm gonna talk to you guys about that, okay? Hold up. Nope. Oh, almost a disaster. Okay. These are the next couple of examples that I could think of, basically following these 7 in terms of the other cards that I think really should go. And I will simply order them in, I think in this order is how I would like them to go. I don't know. This is 7 more cards I would like to go. Oh, Anti-Spell too. I forgot Anti-Spell. How likely is it? Okay. Barrier Statue of the Abyss, funnily enough, is, I think, relatively likely this time around, because Barrier Statue of the Abyss actually saw play as a replacement for the other barrier statues and Pachi in Mitsurugi. We saw Mitsurugi make Dragluxion to search 7th Tachyon and then 7th Tachyon. Oh, I keep saying Abyss. I don't know why I think this one's called Abyss. For some reason, Abyss, I relate it to water. But no, Torrent, of course. I always call this one Abyss. The water barrier statue is being played right now, so I hope it goes. Featherstorm and Different Dimension Ground are by far the most common thrust targets and of the most obvious replacements for Dimensional Barrier. I just think, like, I think with this previous ban list, we made a huge step towards a healthier future in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. And I think it would be a real shame if they don't finish the job, you know? Like, with this, it was basically, like, clear that they wanted to do something about the non-games that are happening. So in my mind, it's super logical to follow up with the cards that are replacing these cards right now. And in the current format, you know, the water barrier statue is replacing the other barrier statues. Featherstorm and Different Dimension Ground are replacing Dimensional Barrier. Eschatos is replacing Protoss. And these 3 continuous floodgates alongside Anti-Spell are also kind of replacing the barrier as just something that you have to hard draw, you know? And you can, of course, there's more cards like Different Dimension Ground or whatever. Dimensional Fissure, I mean. But these are, I think these are the most outrageous ones at the moment. And so I really think it would be a shame to not follow up on this. Is this likely? No, but still, I'm not going to stop fighting the fight against floodgates. So I'm going to keep mentioning them on these ban list discussions until it hopefully happens. Like, I'm not going to stop talking about it just because they keep not doing it, you know? So, yeah. And here's Drollin Lockbird. I don't know what to do with you, little guy, because I can see both sides of the argument, and it's honestly really annoying that we have to make this, that we have to keep arguing about this. I think 2 things are true at the moment, unfortunately, at the same time. Drollin Lockbird is one of the few tools that exists to keep some of the crazy combo decks in check, like Yami Mitsurugi, you know? Drollin Lockbird is being played for good reason at the moment to counter some of these decks. At the same time, Drollin Lockbird is also, in my opinion, by far the least fun non-engine to play against in the format, because it is a floodgate, but it's not a floodgate like these cards. it's a floodgate that happens basically every game because people are main decking it and it works going first and going second. You know, like a freaking Harpy's Featherstorm at least usually only happens once in a match if the opponent is playing it, because they're not going to have it in the main deck, and after siding they're only going to do it when they go first. So it's only happening 1 out of 3 games. Droll and Lockbird happens potentially every game. Every game. You go first, you have to worry about Droll and Lockbird. Your opponent makes a board, you play into it, you have to worry about Droll and Lockbird. And so on and so forth. It just doesn't provide healthy gameplay, right? Because even the combo decks don't even have to really play around Droll and Lockbird much. I mean, there are some things, like activate prayers in your draw phase or whatever, sure. But for the most part, it's just like, make your first search, see if there's a Droll. If the answer is yes, well, you might be fucked. If the answer is no, well, then you can do whatever you want. My opinion on this card is we should rip off the Band-Aid. Droll and Lockbird is a Band-Aid fix to decks that are doing too much. And I've kind of changed my mind, I think, in recent months and years. I know there's been ban list updates where I said, like, keep it alive to keep certain decks in check. At this point, I don't care anymore. Get rid of it. And if there's decks that become problematic after, if there's no Droll to counter them, freaking hit those decks, okay? If there is a deck that if you don't Droll and Lockbird it, auto wins the game, then I think that deck might be a problem and we should do something about it rather than keeping it in the game and saying like, oh, well, Droll exists, so it's fine. No, it's not fine, okay? It's not fine if the deck is only kept in check by Droll and Lockbird, and we should rip off this Band-Aid. I don't care. I don't care if it ruins a format or two if they ban Droll, but then it's the only way to finally force them to make healthier decks and ban list decisions is to ban this card, because it's not interesting. And that's how I feel. Overall, what you'll notice here, even though there's a lot of cards in the banned section, I'm actually quite happy with Yu-Gi-Oh at the moment, because if you want to, if I needed to break down this ban list discussion, it's like, well, I would like the bridges between some of the top tier meta decks to go so they can't play Yami and Mitsurugi in the same deck, because pure Yami and pure Mitsu are both fine individually, but when you play them together, I think that's a problem. I would like a slight hit to Draco Tail, K9, maybe Lunalight, and I want a Malice card to get banned. And then I want some Floodgates to get hit. But overall, I think this is a pretty tame ban list. And I think it's the result of a pretty good year for Yu-Gi-Oh! That I don't actually want that many fundamental changes to the decks at the moment. You know, like for the most part, I don't want the decks that people are playing at the moment to die. You know, most of the archetypes that they've made are pretty cool and pretty fun to play with and against. And so I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is in a good spot. Just get rid of some bridges and some floodgates, and I think we're golden for the most part, right? And make some room for some new decks out of the new packs, and then it's Gucci, I think.